Okay, Mangesh, if you'd like to start.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, everyone. I guess good morning for some, good evening for some, and it's almost a night. So welcome everyone in this Light Up virtual conference, which is a 24 hours Microsoft Technology learning and fundraising event to fight COVID-19. I am Mangesh, and I am here to present the session on gRPC with .NET Core. So yes, so this is the fundraising event, so you can donate and just support this cause because support this cause and help out the needy people there. So this event wouldn't be possible without these sponsors, and we have plenty of sponsors. So thank you sponsors for sponsoring us this event, and let's start the session. So with .NET Core 3.0, we have some exciting we had some exciting upgrades. We have some exciting features, and gRPC is one of them. So we'll try to explore what is gRPC, what are the basic concepts of gRPC, how to create a service, how to create a client, and let's see how we can call gRPC service using and let's create one demo app with Blazor WebAssembly as well as using some gRPC service as well. Okay. So agenda for this session will be to understand what is gRPC. Let's try to explore some gRPC concepts like protobuf, how the things will work, how the client and server communication occurs with gRPC. Then we will have one demo for creating a client and service. We'll explore some gRPC types, and then finally it would be a demo, a to-do application with Blazor WebAssembly and gRPC. Okay, so first thing, what is gRPC? So uh, back, I'm starting my video, and yeah. So what is gRPC? Basically, gRPC is an open source RPC framework which has been developed by Google. Actually, Google uses Google has open sourced this in 2015. They Google has used this RPC framework into their internal for their internal communication. Basically, uh, uh, with the gRPC, we can efficiently connect polyglot services. Polyglot services are the services which are developed into two different languages or two different completely environments. In microservices architecture, connecting mobile devices and some browser clients as well. It provides a way to the client apps to call the server method as if they are the local objects. This is basically a feature of any RPC framework. We can say that we use the clients app or client apps don't go into the details of what will be the protocol or what will be the methods to call some methods onto the server, like we do while calling the web API methods. It would be simply it would be like calling the class method into your like we do into our day-to-day development. So next thing is to explore the gRPC core concept. Basically, gRPC has two main parts. First one being the gRPC protocol, that is HTTP2, and another one that is the data serialization form or data serialization method, which is nothing but the, or we call it as an protobuf. Protobuf is a data serialization format, as well as the IDL, which is IDL, that is interface definition language, which is being used by gRPC, so as to communicate in between your client and in between your service. So so these are the two main building block of our gRPC service. So HTTP2, it is an extension over our traditional HTTP, which provides some enormous features like performance or streaming, client side streaming, server side streaming, or as well as the bidirectional streaming. So these are so this is the main so this is the main component of gRPC as well as the protobuf. So let's try to explore what is protobuf. Protobuf, which is also called as an protocol buffer, which is a flexible, efficient, and structured mechanism for serializing the data. So in the same way that we use JSON into our web APIs or XML, we used to do XML like JSON or XML. This is the mechanism to see for serializing the data. Again, I just coined one term, that is ideal. It is used as an ideal. Ideal is nothing but an interface definition language. Generally, what is ideal? Ideal is the term which we use to it's a mechanism to let a program written in one language to communicate with another language. Like suppose my service is been written into the C#, then there my clients could be into the Android or into the Java, or it can be a Python client. So protocol buffer acts as an ideal, so that, and it means what it allows us, or it creates a platform so that these things will be able to communicate with each other properly or without any hustle. This protocol buffer, they are also used for service interface and message definitions as well. So we will see how what are the service interfaces and the message definitions are, and these can be used to generate the source code for your choice of language using one compiler. Open source compiler is there, which has been called as an proto-C. Okay, so while demo, we can see how to use the proto-C, or how we can generate the source code from this protobuf file. So while dissecting the protobuf file, we can see I'll just stick to the C# protobuf file. So the first section is, it tells us what is the syntax that is been used to generate the protobuf file. It is basically proto3. So there are plenty of versions. There are like proto2, proto1, something like that, and currently we are using proto3. And there is a C# namespace where all services will be clubbed up. That is the light up conference demo that I had created a demo. Next thing is the service definition. This is the sample service that we have created. This service this service is a greeter service. It contains the say hello method, and it accepts the hello request and returns the hello replies. Now, so to analog with our web API things, this greeter is our controller, and this say hello is our particular controller method into our web API. And next, these things like message hello request and message hello reply are nothing but the models that we use into our web API. Basically, what this service definition or what this protocol buffer file is telling us is, we are defining a greeter service which have a say hello method which accept a hello request object, and it returns a hello reply. Okay, so let's try to dissect that more while I'll be doing one demo with you. Okay, so basically how the communication between our gRPC server and client occurs. So generally, the gRPC server implements a protobuf service interface and runs a service to handle call to its service methods. Okay, generally what happens is at server end grpc at server end the protocol buffer file provides some service interfaces as well as some service methods which are implemented as a which are implemented as a service and which are implemented at the service end and at the grpc server end, and it provides some service methods to be called by the client. On the other hand, this same protobuf file is used to create stubs. This protobuf file can be distributed among any client, be it Android client, and it can be an Android client. We just give them our proto file, it will generate a stub, it will send a proto request, and in return it will get a proto response. The same file can be distributed to another client that can be a C++ client. Again, they will implement the stub from our proto file. Again, they will send the proto request and they will get the proto response. So basically, protobuf, what protobuf allows us is it generates, or we can develop a service into any language, and we just distribute that particular protobuf to the different languages, that or to the different client to the clients with the different languages. Basically, it can be a Android client, it can be a C++ client, or it can be a Python client, or it can be a Node client. So basically, this is how the communication in between gRPC server and client occurs. So let's see how we can create our service, and we can create a client, and how we can call the service from this client. So I'll just switch myself to my Visual Studio. I have one application already running over here, but what we'll do is we'll just add one new project. So you can see here there are templates. I mean, this is the gRPC template which we use to create a gRPC server. So when we click next, you will get the project name as usual. I mean, you can light up service demos. You can name it properly. Then this box will open. It will just ask us to create a gRPC service, and here we go. Here our service is created. So when we look at the folder structure, and when we look at the how the things are arranged, you will see this protos file, that is grid.proto. So basically, this is the proto file, and this is the service implementation of that particular proto file. So again, like I have explained, this prototype uses the syntax which is provided by Proto 3. This is our C# namespace. This is package which is being used internally while creating a generating a service interface for this. And this is our service definition. This is the messages, and these two are message types. These two are message types which have been which will be used into the service end. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just add one new service, and we'll see how we can consume it at the client's end. So I have one I have created one I have one demo already created, so we'll use that project to continue in this demo. So to add the proto file, just use the add new item option. Yes, click here proto file, and let's see it. Let's say it is hello world. let's try to keep it as per the naming convention. That proto file name should be in lowercase. Not sure why it is, but if you see, this hello world dot proto file has been added. Now next thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that this proto file will be compiled. So in order to do that, this build action, just go to the proto file, right click on it, just click on the properties. When we see the build action, here you can see the various options. This is the protobuf compiler. There is one action that is which tells that this file should be compiled with this protobuf compiler. And here we are saying there are various options that how this file should be compiled, as a client and server, as a client only, as a server only, or just don't do anything. So in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to compile this file as an server only. So with when we are done with these options, let's build the project once. The project is building. Might be my services are running into the background, so let me stop them. Yes, so it is stopped. Now I can build my projects. Yeah, here it is. We are successful with that. Now to define the service, the first step that we need to do is to define our according to me, I mean, you can take whatever the approach what you want. You can define the service first and then define your messages, but what will be the convenient way is to define our messages. Okay, so message, my messages will be hello request, which will return hello response. In this hello request, I will just say, I'll just create one property, string property with say name, and in response I would say just string hello world response. No, not hello world response, but maybe greetings, and let's say it one. So one thing, interesting thing that we can check here is this every field into this message has some numbering with it. That is one. What this numbering is. So basically, these numbers indicate the fields number which are used to identify fields in the binary encoded data. Basically, protobuf encodes the data into the while sending it into the wire. It is binary encoded. So these numbers are used to recognize that particular field. These numbers are used to recognize that particular field. So when we are done with this, when we are done with this, then it's time to create our hello world service. Uh, let me close them all, and where we added it. Okay. I guess I misplaced it somewhere. So let me add one proto file again. Okay. It was there actually. Need to include this into the project. Not sure why it is not showing into this, but and so let's try to generate this service, and into this service, what we'll do is we'll just say that RPC say hello, which will accept this hello request and which will returns us the hello response, comma, and let's try to build this again. So yes, this is getting built. Now what we'll do is we'll add, so this all has become our a contract. This all has become our contract. Now we are going to implement this contract into the service. Hello world service. Now we have added this hello world service. Next step is make sure whatever sure why it is let me do it again. I can do it something like this and should make it hello world one maybe. Okay, and this service, let me change the properties are good, and now let's see if we can implement this. Yeah, here we can see dot hello base. So this is the C sharp, our C sharp namespace. We can make it into this using statement maybe. And now we know this is the hello world where it is. This is the now we can see this hello world is our service definition, and this is the hello world base. This is nothing but an abstract class which implements all the things and uh, binds the service call to this proto file basically. So that is the that is been achieved by using the service base. Now to use this method into this proto file, what we need to do is we need to override this method into this service implementation. And what we will do is we will just return new hello response, and it contains greetings equals to hello. And what we'll do is we'll just request dot name. So here we have implemented our service in which this this is the simple service which is returning our hello response. It contains one property, that is greetings. We are just appending some hello, and whatever the request name that we will be sending from the client, it would send us as an hello that particular client, okay, or hello that particular name. So now next step is to generate the clients. So for that I have added one console application, and in this we will use to call this before that what we need to do is uh, we just need to map this service or map this endpoint into our this middleware. So to do that, there is one middleware for that. Just need to do this again. If you could see, if we try to access these services from the browser, then it will give us this message that communication with gRPC endpoints cannot be made, can be made only through a gRPC clients. So in order to invoke these services, we need to have a gRPC client which will implement these services or these protocol buffer files. So now next step is to create a client. So how do we create a client? We just need to do is just copy this proto file, just paste in your protos folder or whatever location you want, and just go to the properties of it and just change the stub classes. Like how the stub classes will be generated, we want it to be generated as a client only. Just apply this and click OK. Now this file or this service is ready to be consumed into our client application. So before that, in order to make any client, or I'm talking specifically about the .NET client, we need some 3 packages before that. First one being google.protobuf, second one is the grpc.net.client, and third one is the grpc.tools. So these things are needed. So these things will provide us the things like proto C or the orientation for the protobuf files. So now we have this proto file. We have made it to compile as a client. Now it's time to consume this file and see how it will work. So I'll just close all of them. I'll just go to the program.cs, and this is my older demo basically. And let's keep it. So first step into this is to create a client. So create a channel, sorry. So what channel does is it just creates a connection in between your client and in between your server. So we are assuming that our services are running on this location, that is 5001. So to do that, just do one thing. I'm using this .NET Run. Okay, there are some issues, runtime issues. Let me see what it is. Oh, there are some issues with this. Okay, this endpoint will not be there because we have commented that. And let's try to run this again. Yeah, we have this also. Let's comment this all time and let's try to run this again. Okay, yeah, our server is running with this, and now let's go to our client. Let's build up our client first. Then this is how we create a channel. Now once we create a channel, next step is to create a client. So the client is nothing but this hello world that we have, and we need to provide a connection for that. Okay, so this client is nothing but this client is nothing but a client generated by our protobuf file. So when you go and when you see into this, so you will see that this all the class is been generated from a protobuf file when we compiled it. So this is our client. Now to get a to get our or just to call a method from our server, what we need to do is we just need to just comment this and client dot say hello. It accept new hello request which has name. We will give it as an ABC for now, and that's it. So we'll add some for here, and yeah, we are ready to go. And we can see this response has one property called greetings, and which we will be printing on the console app. So maybe so yeah, our service is running over here. Now let's try to run this client and see what happens over here. So yeah, I have set this as my startup project, and yeah, here I'm running it. Okay, so yeah, now you can see here the response from the service is hello ABC, in the same way that we have implemented with this our hello world service. What it is returning is, it is returning the greetings with this hello and whatever the name that we are passing to this client from here. Here you can say, if I change this to maybe to Tony Stark, then let's see what it will return. Yeah, it is returning now hello Tony Stark. And on and at the server end, if you could see that this request is been finished within this time frame with status code 200 and with the content type as an application slash grpc. So this is how we can create our services, and this is how we can consume them into our client application. So coming back to So coming back to our demo or PPD. So gRPC types. So basically, there are 4 types of gRPC types. First one being the unary, that is a simple request and response format, or the way we send the request, server process the request, and it sends us back the responses. That is, we call it as an unary. Next one is the client streaming. What happens in this case is client streams the request, servers gets them, accepts them all, process them, and sends us the response at once. Next one is the server streaming. The client initiates the request. In return, server holds that request. On behalf of that request, it sends the stream of the responses to the client, and client can act on that, or client can operate on that particular stream of the responses. Next one is the bidirectional streaming. Means what happens is client can send the streams. In response, server also can send us the stream data. So these are the 4 types of the gRPCs, right? Next, we have one demo. That demo, I have one ready-made demo with me, which is nothing but the integration of our WebAssembly and our gRPC service. Basically, there is one limitation with the gRPC service. What that limitation is, we cannot call our gRPC service from the browser. Like I had shown you that message while into the service definition. So in order to avoid that, there is one package, or there is one another form of gRPC that we call as an gRPC web. This limitation is because of some HTTP2 compliances with the browser, as well as browser is not ready to accept some or browser is not ready to adopt with some important things with the HTTP suite. So that's why the gRPC service cannot be directly consumed into the browser. So in order to overcome that, there is one way out for that. That is gRPC web. So this application is basically developed into the Blazor WebAssembly, and into the service side, we are using gRPC web and gRPC so as to implement the services. So let's again go back to the Visual Studio, and this is my ready-made app. Now let me stop this server session, because my service will be running on the same port, and yeah, this is shutting down. Okay, so let me go back to my source code again, and yeah, so this is my service application. This is a to-do application. Basically, it has my to-do data service. What it is taking is it will just get us all the list. It will post, or it will be to add the database, to add the to-do item into the database. This will get a particular data item, to-do data item, delete it, and update it. So I'm just you don't need to make it like put, delete, or get, something like that. We don't need to use that terms. You can use whatever the terms you want to, like post. I just made it to look like something like a web APIs. Okay, so in this application, I'm using some in-memory database to try it out, and this is my to-do service, and these are the initializations now, and this is my WebAssembly app. So I'll just start my to-do applications once. Open PowerShell window from over here, and I'll just click .NET Run. Yes, so now my service is running on this localhost 5001, Now it's time to start our client application. So this client application is completely built up on the Blazor WebAssembly. So in the same way, like we have developed the client, we have the todo.proto client. It has all the methods, or it has all the methods, all the message definitions, imports, syntax, and I'm just making it to compile as an client only. So when I start this application, it is starting. It is loading. Actually, yeah. So this is my seeded data that I had done while running the application, and yeah. Now you can see into the services. Not here. Yeah, here. Uh, this service is running. So let's now try to what we'll try to do is just add one new item. Just say meetings at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Status is active. All good. Okay. Now maybe we can have some refinements at 11 a.m. and the status is active. Good. I can delete this. All good. I can edit this. Just make it closed. That my particular to-do item is done. So this is the application that we have developed into the Blazor WebAssembly and with gRPC web and gRPC services. If you just analyze some network calls with this, like test and active, here you can see that this call okay, the content type header, not this, yeah. So these are the here it is, the content type. You can see the application slash gRPC web. So this is we have completely different content type into our traditional web APIs. So this is how we can, I mean, this is how we can develop, or we can use gRPC web to just make sure that we can to build up the browser apps into the WebAssembly or into the Angular or in any other technologies also. So this is my this is my to do application. Now coming to this one more thing that I wanted to I would like to show you here is let's stop this maybe. Yeah. So just going back to the so so some startup setups that we need to that we need to make before starting using gRPC web. So this is adding some cores like we do into the web API, but with the headers like gRPC status, gRPC message, gRPC encoding, and accept encoding. Next is to add service like services.add gRPC. This is usual. Next is to add or to configure a middleware into the pipeline to make to tell that we are going to use the gRPC web, and to make sure that these endpoints just enabled with the cores that we have developed, or that we have mentioned into this services setting. So this is how we can develop this is how we can integrate our WebAssembly apps with our gRPC service. I mean, yeah. So coming back to our presentation. So just few questions might that there might be, like why we should use the gRPC instead of Web API. Actually, yes, that's the most debatable point. Debatable point, like why we should switch over to the gRPC if we have the Web API, like excellent framework like Web API. First thing, or excellent framework like Web API, where we are so used to it, we can develop the things quickly. And why we should use the gRPC? First thing is the performance. With the HTTP2, the performance thing, and the gRPC uses HTTP2, and with HTTP2 there are some moderate improvements, or there are some considerable improvements into the performance of the application, or how the communication will be occur. Next is the code generation. The code generation is a little bit easy when we are using the protobuf. Then means like we used to do for the WSDL into the WCF era, that we'll just generate some clients or stubs, and we used to do that. In the same way, we can do that for the protobuf as well, but we cannot do that in case of Web APIs. Next is the strict specification. Though generally there is no formal specification for the REST. There is no like what verbs to be used for a particular method, or what should be the return types, what should be the output, or how the output should be structured. So there is no formal specification is being defined with the REST. But with the gRPC, with the protobuf, with the protobuf, we have some strict specification which is being defined. Next is the streaming support. We have some streaming support, like client side streaming, server side streaming, and bidirectional streaming, which is not possible with the traditional REST. This is well suited for the microservices, for polyglot environments, and again, being the less what we can say, being lightweight than the REST response. This can be the alternative to the REST into the network constraint areas. So for polyglot environment, yes, whenever there are two different languages involved, then there are always issues. So gRPC or protobuf, gRPC with protobuf can be can be helpful in that case. Into the inter-services communication, to use into the microservices, we can use the gRPC. So these are the plus points of the gRPC, but there are some negative points as well. Like there is no directly support to the direct support on the browser, as far as the gRPC is concerned. So that can make so that is something that gRPC needs to be matured on. So there are plenty of limitations with the gRPCs as well. So any questions with this? I guess no. So yeah, thank you. And this is these are my contact details. You can email me on my email ID, that mangesh.gaherwar@outlook.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. My GitHub ID is .NET Geek. All these samples that is been into the demo are present on this GitHub repository, and you can find me on the Twitter as well. I tweet on the name under the name of .NET Geek 1, and I blog at www